Hi, friends. It is Farnia Fresnel, and I'm happy to be back today for Leader Branding Basics in partnership with Better Spaces. For those of you joining for the first time, our series is called Leadership COGS, and we focus our topics on situations that high-performing leaders oftentimes face. A quick reminder of what COGS is. C stands for the celebration necessary to notice that something has shifted and something's actually going on in your favor and to recognize it and celebrate. The O is for ownership. Ownership, as we all have to step into some responsibility, and that might mean getting in action. G is the glue that often keeps you and others stuck. And the S is the stretch that many of us feel when we are leveling up or trying something new. So today, again, leader branding basics. A few years ago, I worked with a client who was simply brilliant. She grew up professionally in her company, so she was smart, she was capable. And the truth is, she was really respected and on the fast track. But she told me, I don't want to brand myself because it really feels like bragging. I don't want to be one of those people, right? Who's always self-promoting. And her hesitation is really common. Many leaders think personal branding is about being flashy or self-absorbed. But in reality, personal branding says, this is who I am and this is what you can count on me for. The reality says that avoiding your brand doesn't protect you. In fact, it actually limits you. Over time, this particular leader, she realized that her reluctance to differentiate herself was costing her opportunities. It was costing her visibility, and it was actually costing her credibility, especially with her direct leadership. And that's why we're here, because your leadership isn't about bragging. Here's a challenge that a lot of pioneering leaders face. They're afraid of being perceived as bragging. They don't want to draw attention away from the team. So saying I instead of we, a lot of people use the statement and say there's no I in team. You're right, there's no I in team, yet when you're advocating for funding, when you're advocating on behalf of, it's the I that stands in front of whoever's listening to do that advocacy. It's an I whose credibility is on the line to amplify the rest of the team. So not having full capacity and not having the ability to amplify your I limits anything that your team might do. And I wonder for you, how many of you might hear people referring back to the team? Yeah, my team, my team, my team. Often. It's powerful. It demonstrates awareness that you're not in this alone. Yet sometimes that I is in fact necessary to even get the door open for the rest of the team. So the other thing that a lot of pioneering leaders face is the fact that they're busy, right? Like very few of us have time on our hands. The day-to-day work feels more urgent, and frankly, comparing doing the work versus advertising that you did the work, the doing the work feels like it's more pressing. The doing the work feels like what everyone else is looking for. Yet talking about doing the work, which is the branding part of it, the branding part is what makes someone think to have you do the next big thing next time. From Nike to the Knicks, right? You'll never see a major brand shy away from their brand because they're busy. They're busy and they have to make sure that the brand does not take a break in spite of the busy. The brand is actually doing the work while you're going to sleep. The brand is still activated even when you're busy. So what is a brand? Amazon, was once the name, people say, oh, the Amazon, I'm going to the Amazon. And they'd be talking about Brazil, they'd be talking about a jungle. So Jeff Bezos turned this word into a global consumer jungle. He said that your brand is what people say about you or your company when you're not around. So me talking about your brand existing even when you're asleep, that's exactly it. When you're not around, it's how people frame you, where they consider you, how they may align you with opportunity that you might not even know about. It's how the keywords that's what keywords are, almost branding terms. So think, what are your keywords? It's true for whatever business you're working for and true for you as a leader. What are your keywords? We know those terms. What are your words, your special words? And we're going to do a little bit of work with that in just a little bit. So if you're still not convinced, let's have this discussion. So there's a cost of not branding. Chameleons can hide in plain sight. And I encourage you to just raise your hand or drop "I'm hidden" in the chat if you've ever felt that way, like you might be hiding in plain sight. You do great things at work, you do great things at home, you do great things even in your community, but no one's even said thank you. It's not that you're not appreciated, it's just people may not be noticing. And the question is why? Why aren't people noticing? Why isn't this important? And what we know is attention spans are shrinking. Microsoft did a study that showed in the year 2000, the average attention span was 12 seconds. And today, that's gone down to about 8 seconds. This is shorter than the attention span of a goldfish. So other people who may genuinely be interested in you, genuinely interested in what you're working on, they just can't keep that front and center. They saw it today and they forgot about it by tomorrow. Not for any malicious reasons. It's simply because awareness about you is competing with awareness about everything else, including the awareness of their personal lives and whatever emergencies or fires they might be putting out. We're in a microwave society where people are scanning. They're not studying. And if there's not some reliable way to keep you visible, you're invisible. Second, when decisions are being made about promotions, about opportunities, about who gets invited into a room, if you haven't been visible, chances are you won't be remembered. And then lastly, the cost of not branding is this. Influence is now measured in part by your visibility. There are people that are being hired or promoted based on their followers, their reach, and the perception of their influence, not necessarily their qualification. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that they've mastered the ability to show up in small spaces. It means they've mastered the ability to show up in multiple spaces. And they've mastered the ability to capture attention consistently. And by doing so, independent of their qualifications, they're demonstrating that they can demonstrate value. And that signals a form of leadership. So ask yourself the cost of not branding yourself. Have you experienced missed opportunities? Have you ever experienced forgotten contributions? Or most importantly, have you ever been left behind? So I'd love to introduce you to what you can do. So at the Lenserf Group, we use a framework called Me Inc. And it's simple. Each letter stands for something that you can do to step into your own brand. And what is Me Inc? First of all, M is for making your brand. Who are you? And who do you want to be? What's one thing you want to be known for? Identify the one thing you want people to say about you. Think like this. If my colleagues introduced me in just one sentence, what would I want them to say? The E. The E is for expose yourself. So think about this. Where are you showing up? Are you visible in the rooms, the meetings, the platforms where decisions are being made? And you can start small here with exposures like, oh, no, I don't want everyone to know all of my business. This is not about that. Try sharing an insight on LinkedIn periodically. Try speaking up in that cross-functional meeting rather than going back to your desk or your office and then starting to shoot out emails. Try speaking up in that space. And just try doing this for a few months and notice what starts to shift. The I is for inquire. So what comes up when people look for you? So if they're looking for you online, what shows up? That's one way. Another way, ask people you trust. Identify one or two or three people in different spaces that you exist and ask them, what three words come to mind when you think of me? This is a quick brand check. Just get the pulse of what already exists about you. If you don't know this intuitively, ask people you trust. The N. So the N is never give up. And you say, well, what does this mean in terms of branding? Branding is about consistency. It's a rhythm. It's not a one-time campaign. So set your rhythm. Branding's about endurance. There are lots of incredible top voices on LinkedIn. And these LinkedIn top voices, they actually don't become visible overnight. They post consistently with a lot of clarity about what they're representing and with a lot of value. And over time, they become recognizable voices. And I'm pointing to LinkedIn because many of us are in professional settings. And when we think about social media, LinkedIn tends to be the one that is most closely aligned with professional settings. So branding yourself, even independent of the organization you're working for, can be immensely powerful, especially when aligned with professional settings. Now the C is for considering your impact. Your brand isn't about ego. Again, it's not about self-promotion, but it's about helping others to understand the difference that only you make. And by helping them understand that difference, it allows you to even make the difference. If people don't get you, they can't work with you because they don't know what you're good and reliable for. They don't know what they can count on you for. So C is considering your impact. So I'd love to try this with you. There is a wonderful book. It's called Your One Word by Evan Carmichael. And we're not going to go through the full book here, but in the first like 70 pages, he carries folks through a really powerful exercise of identifying what is your one word that represents everything about you. And this doesn't mean you're limited to your one word, but this is when you experience this person, this is what you might also experience. So I invite you to type in the chat just one word or even a short phrase that you'd like people to associate with you as a leader. This may not be your job title. This may not be your department. This may not be the description of your company. This is you. Take a moment and just drop it in the chat. I see connection. My word, personally, I've gone through this Evan Carmichael exercise and have gone through this several times in different parts of my career. And my one word comes back to ignite. Ignite. anything that I do, anywhere I go, I want to know that I ignited something, power in other people, lit up a space in some kind of way. My word is ignite. So notice how powerful these kinds of words can be. Connection, ignite, what is yours? These words, they help others to know exactly what you're bringing to the table. So if I have a dead initiative and it needs some fire, it needs to be reignited, then you know what? This person might be the right character for it. If my team has been disengaged, then she brings fire, she brings energy. When I leave, someone should feel that I was there. Ignite. What's your word? And how are you living in that word today? So let's talk practical. How do you keep this going? So you come up with your word, you go through the me ink exercise, and how do you actually keep it going? In the past, a lot of people would equate Google to search. So if I say Google, you say search, Google search, Google search. Today, the first search results, when you're doing a search, it's not just about, hey, what's out there, what documents Google might come back and find, but when you do search, there are AI results that come up even before traditional search results. So AI is scraping the internet at a rapid speed and comes up with anything that looks like it's the term that you're searching for. And that would include information about you. So whatever your brand is, with whatever assets are out there, even now, that you've probably never even looked at, AI is scraping and looking and digging to identify something. So if you aren't planting the seeds of that brand, AI is doing that for you. And whatever else from whoever else might have ever touched you is what's showing up to represent your brand. We understand the concept of peer review in a lot of professional circles, and it applies here too. If you want to speak at a conference or publish a book or even get promoted, the internet or your company intranet is wired to pull data that already exists. That's what's happening right now for you. So practical tips for your digital footprint is to take ownership of that digital footprint. There are a couple things you can do. Post your why. Identify a social media channel of your choosing and post your why. If you don't know what to say, post your why. Why do you do the work that you do? In that same post, people would then understand, oh, this person is motivated by X, and this is the work and the difference that they're making in the world. It's such a simple post to write. What is your why? What gets you up in the morning and gets you going? And why do you do the work that you do? What is the difference that you might see happening in the world as a result of that? Another post you could write, you could share some encouragement, a simple story about how you might have handled a tough moment. People don't know what the day-to-day looks like. Have you heard a day in the life of? What is the day in your life? How are you navigating rough waters? And chances are, if you've gone through it, someone else is either going through it or can benefit from seeing how you've been navigating. You don't owe that to anyone, but this is starting to set the pace for your brand. A third thing that you could do is showcase your expertise is just share one clear insight that anyone can use immediately if they are in a comparable situation. Just share one clear insight. I did this and this happened. So simple. Literally, you could write one right now on a social media site of your choosing, or if you even have your own blog. Blog posts don't have to be paragraphs, they can literally be sentences. What else can help? Well, there are lots of social media tools that can help you make this easier so it doesn't feel as onerous. If there's a topic that you're interested in and affiliated with your industry, there are Google alerts that can really, really help. I think the site is google.com/alerts. And with Google Alerts, what you notice is anything that you're looking for It'll do a scrape for you on the web and send you a full listing of everything that is also talking about that topic that you're interested in. Now, I'm talking about getting posts out and starting to establish that brand, but there's another side of branding. There is brand management, managing what's actually out there. Because if you're starting to define your brand and you want to understand and drive consistency into how you're showing up and how people are receiving you, you might also want to know what may be out there that you don't quite like, or what may be out there that might compromise your brand. A couple things that might help there, or have I been pawned? So that's to find out if anywhere your presence has been breached in a significant way, your email address or something else might have been breached in a significant way. And there are other sites that can complement that and support you in identifying and doing some brand management. So sharing these things, there's also, I think, Sprout Social. I didn't talk about that. Sprout Social, that can help you to keep your posts, to some insight into how your posts are performing on different social media channels. So sharing this, and there's a lot more out there. This is just grazing the surface, and it might sound so complicated. And this isn't about perfection. It's really about building a rhythm, not perfection. We just want you to get in motion to capitalize on understanding what your brand even is, so you can begin to reset the trajectory if necessary. So let's bring this all together. Your leadership brand is not about bragging. If you don't define it, other people will. And if you don't show up consistently, you risk being forgotten. And here's my challenge to you this week. Share one post, have one conversation, or update one part of your social media profile, all based on that one word that you typed into the chat today. Take just one action that makes your brand slightly more visible. I thank you for joining us today. I'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about boosting productivity with AI at work. And in there, we might talk about a couple other tools that might be meaningful or helpful for you. So in the meantime, don't forget you can catch this session and many others on demand anytime through the Better Spaces app. And if you have any questions or if you want to connect, scan this QR code. I'd love to connect with you. You can also drop your email in the chat or send a message to team@betterspaces.com. Thanks again for being here. Take care and be well.